I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
LegacyMaker, the all sports network, presents a SIRTOBA media production where the struggle is real to be awesome.
5, 4, 3, 2.
The wait is over.
So you're giving it to Dale Earnhardt Jr. because he piggybacked off of his dad's name. The only difference was because there was a junior at the end and not a senior.
Yes, and
Okay.
because the fact is, Drew.
Oh my God! I had Miami Heat winning last night. I was upset too when they lost. This with you because of the fact of what you just feel strongly of.
Get your popcorn ready. It's time for the In or Out sports debate with your hosts,
Joel McCain
and Drew Willingham.
Hello, everyone. We are live for another edition of the In or Out Sports Debate, episode 86. I am your host, Drew Willingham, along with this week's very special guest panelist. For the first time, he is the host of the Eagles Elite podcast, also a participant like myself within the Snowman Multimedia crew. Give it up for the one and only Cool McCain.
What's going on, man?
Hey, man, doing great. Thank you again for being here on this evening, on this Sunday evening, as we have 5 great topics to go through this evening. But, you know, if you don't mind, take a minute and tell our fans where they could find you and find your podcast out so that way they can tune in.
Sure, man. So kind of all over social media, of course, here at Eagles Elite Podcast on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also find me at youtube.com/@Eagles Elite, where we stream everything. Also, playcallersportstalk.com/live from my other show, Play Caller Sports Talk. That's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Fridays. The Eagles Elite Podcast is 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, and also on Fridays. After the Eagles Elite, after Play Callers, you can also find me on the Sports Empire Network, where I do a basketball show there called Top of the Key. We talk all things NBA. So there's a couple of places there to find me, and I'll go through where you can find me personally at the end here because we want to get into it.
Absolutely. And for the parts that I've seen, you guys definitely do a great job at covering those avenues very, very well. Now, me being a fan of the formerly known as the REDSKINS and now the Commanders, that I like to call the Commies, I don't really particularly watch that many Eagles shows. Like, I go surfing for them, but sometimes when your stuff has come across, I have dived into it for a little bit because I want to get to know, the other fellow podcasters out there, regardless of what the topics are. And you guys are definitely very knowledgeable and cover it very well. So shout out to you guys. If you're Eagles fans watching this show right now, because you know that regardless of a fan of what I am, I cover a variety of different things. Guys, go check out this man's stuff over on the Play Callers Network. Check out the Eagles Elite Podcast. Does very great work. And, of course, as always, check out the Snowman Multimedia. But for those of you who have been panelists on this show in the past, it is time that we acknowledge something before we go any further, and that is the Vault of Fame.
Acknowledge me.
Man, you took me back. This is why this show was so important, and this is why I am personally validating and vouching for this show. If you are anybody in media, sports, professional wrestling, anything, you need to be on In or Out Sports Debate with my man Drew Willingham, because this has got to be one of the most fun things I've ever done in a long time.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Inter-House Sports Debate Vault of Fame, which you can find here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, the new TikTok channel, and as always, the latest in sports coverage at Legacy Maker Sports Network, which you can find at www.legacymakersportsnetwork.com. Handles for the Inter-House Sports Debate are Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Twitch, as well as the audio platforms on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Anchor.fm, and you can download these episodes individually on iTunes. SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. With this video production brand that brings you this entertainment you watch right now on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the YouTube channel coming soon. I know I've been saying this for a minute, but I promise before the weather gets warm outside, I will bring you a YouTube channel and the latest in video coverage at SIRTOBA.com. If you want to find me individually, Drew Willingham, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and the SIRTOBA.com website, as well as LegacyMakerSports.com. And I promise that fresh haircut is coming soon. I know I am rocking the long weave right now here in March. It is here, but I'm going to donate it at some point this year. Cool, it's happening. I'm going to donate it, but right now, got to keep it. It's cold out here in these streets. Guys, we've got 5 great rounds to go through. I know Cool's excited. Let's go ahead and get this unit started with round 1.
Round 1.
And here with round 1, the NCAA made the right decision by excluding UNC from the men's basketball tournament. Cool, how do you feel about this one right here? Do you agree with this statement in hand? Are you in or are you out?
I'm all in. So I'm a fan of the North Carolina Tar Heels, and they are the most talented and most disappointing team of all time after what they put out on the court this past season. A lot of internal turmoil within the team. Even with that, so you had enough talent to go out and perform a lot better. You did. This does not fall on the players. The coach should have done a much better job at rotating in different guys. Our starting 5 didn't have a true point guard in it. And that's one of the things that hurt us. Caleb Love has had a green light for 2 years. That's hurt because he takes a lot of shots that he should not take. He hasn't been reined in. We got away from what's always made North Carolina really great, which is the big inside game, the 2 big post players. It's been disappointing. A couple of guys are going to leave and, take their talent elsewhere. I don't blame them. You sit a year and don't hardly play. That kind of turns you off. So a lot of things were done wrong this season, a lot by the players, but the coaching staff as a whole, not just the head coach, the coaching staff as a whole, I think let down those players as well. But I think more so than anything, the players let themselves down. So they deserve to not be in a tournament. They deserve to not go to the NIT. They deserve to flush this season and start over fresh next year.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you here on this statement. I'm in on this as well. Cool brings up a lot of great facts with this round 1 topic, but I'm going to take it one step further. When you think about their play within the ACC tournament, they did smack Boston College around in that first game. But then when you go against the Virginia Cavaliers, a team in UVA that has struggled all season long. I don't care about the number 2 seed, what they had in the ACC tournament. The UVA team was not what they have been in the past years. I mean, the UNC team, even though they were ranked a bit higher, should have beaten this UVA team. Now, they did only lose by 9 points, but losing that game put a stamp on the factor of whether they got to the NCAA tournament or not. When I think about watching all these games that the Tar Heels played within the remaining part of their season, the last game of the regular season, they lost by 5 to number 12 Duke. Now, yeah, 12 Duke was ranked, but even Duke is not what they've been since Coach K stepped down. I mean, basketball has been different this season than within the past 10 seasons, let alone the past 30. So with those moves and the older generation of coaching stepping down and the newer ones coming in, we're starting to see a resurgence in different teams that didn't necessarily get the opportunities because these coaches that are stepping into these big schools like Duke and UNC and trying to fill these shoes, it's not working out like everybody anticipated. When you have somebody in waiting, like especially in Duke's favor, when you have somebody in waiting, it's not like this guy's going to lead you to a national championship right this season. And especially with UNC, with Roy Williams stepping down a while back. So with all these differences in coaching, I got to look back on all that. And that's what I feel like is the big reason why this team is where they're at right now.
And I just say to that, man, Hubert Davis took this team to the national championship game last year, right? As a first-year head coach. So you put expectations on yourself. You only lost one starter, and you came back and this team performed this poorly. So obviously a lot of things happen. I do think it's going to be concerning for the ACC as a whole, Duke, Carolina, and Syracuse, right? Because now Syracuse is going to be in a similar situation next year with the guy ascending to that position from the staff. Sometimes it works out, and I think it can, but we're going to have to wait and see. But UNC should come out with a huge chip on their shoulder next year, and they should be a much better team. If they're not, then hey, it's going to be some problems for Hubert Davis, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, everybody's got a learning curve. They've got time to get this right. And it's not like he's on the chopping block. It's not like they had an absolute horrible season. But
yeah,
I mean, they've had some worse ones in the past. But in recent memory, like you pretty much said to start off your argument there, it's one of the worst ones we've seen in quite some time, especially new millennium of Tar Heel basketball. So, fans, let us know what you think here in the comments of that round one. We'll go ahead and keep this unit all moving as we go into round two and see what we got for a little bit of NFL football.
Round two.
And here with round two, the re-signing of James Bradberry will pay major dividends for the Philadelphia Eagles. How do you feel about this one, Cool? Do you agree with the statement on hand? Are you in or are you out on this one?
I am 3,000% in on this one.
Lay it on him, my man. Lay it on him.
So you now have James Bradberry, who a little bit younger than Slay, played really well within the system last year, loved on the team, one of the leaders on the team, especially for the secondary, now back, for a multiple-year deal. Signed, sealed, and delivered. He's going to be there. And a major talking point about this is he took less money to stay in Philadelphia. And I'm not attempting to sit here and act like he took $10 million yet less, but he took less dollars than he could have gotten somewhere else. He said he wanted to be back in Philly. He didn't release anything beforehand. He let everything play out. Then once he was re-signed, he came out and said what he said. So I love the signing. I love the morale boost, and I love the fact that we also have Darius Slay back. So we have one of the, I believe the best, but I'll say one of the best cornerback duos in the league together for at least another 2 years. So that's an exciting thing, for a fan of the team or a fan of football in general, just to see what wide receivers, what coordinators are going to be able to figure out a game plan to be able to stop or try to mitigate these two guys because they're back, baby.
Okay. Well, man, I respect your opinion. I have to say, for the first time on this mother fathering show, I disagree. I am out. You bring some great points to the table, Cool McCain. Like I said, I respectfully disagree with what you're saying because at some point we've got to disagree on something, right? And in this case right here, I have to disagree. Looking at James Mother, Father, and Bradberry, 29 years old, is going to be 30 this year. What has he done with his time frame? Cool. Again, what has he done with his time frame? Been in the league since 2016, was with the Carolina Panthers for the first 4 seasons, went to the New York Giants for 2 years, then now has been with the Philadelphia Eagles for 1 season. And what did he get in that 1 season with Philadelphia Eagles? His highest rated as a second-team All-Pro in this season. Before that, all he was just a one-time Pro Bowler. He didn't even make the Pro Bowl this season, wasn't even elected to the Pro Bowl. And you want to pay this man for 3 years, $38 million. $38 million, Cool McCain, for a second-team All-Pro, and you're treating him like he's a 4-time All-Pro champion? Get out of here with that noise. Like I said, I respect your opinion. But when I think about a one-time second-team All-Pro and a one-time Pro Bowl, a one-time for 3 years, $38 million, I see you smile back there because I'm partially right. Come on, 3 years, $38 million. You could have gave a Tom Brady discount if you really cared and not go over the Super Bowl again.
There's actually only 22 that's guaranteed. So while y'all like to talk overall numbers, if it's not guaranteed, you can miss me with that. And another point, he was on the Carolina Panthers. Trash. So we're going to punish him for being on a trash team with no line. Then he went to the New York Giants. Trash. We're going to punish him for being on the trash team with no line. So he had no time to get in position. Now he goes to a solid team, and what happens? second team All-Pro. So now he's ascending and we're seeing his true talent, but you want to punish him for being on 2 trace teams with trace coordinators and trace organizations. Come on. That's what we do.
$38 million for 3 years.
23 guaranteed.
I'm just saying, whether he plays the whole contract or not, on paper, I feel like this man is robbing this team of money for a one-time second team All-Pro and a one-time Pro Bowl. And if he would have won the Super Bowl this year, if you guys would have won, then in a different discussion we could have at a later date on that subject. Had they won, then I would probably say, okay, pay the man. But
so we're punishing him because the referees decided to put on their red and gold stripes in the Super Bowl. We're punishing James Bradberry and how we feel about him because of the referees. And people can say what they want. You can call me a sore loser. I really can give a rat's you know what. That was bogus. That call at the end of the game was bogus. The fact that there was not one offensive holding penalty on that line that was dragging people to the ground. And we let all of that go. And then we're going to say because James Bradberry can't catch a touchdown pass, because he did what he was allowed to do the whole entire game and made a grab. Now we're going to say, because they didn't win the Super Bowl, he shouldn't get paid $23 million guaranteed over 3 years. We could talk the whole number, but let's talk the guaranteed dollar amount because that's all he's promised to get from the team. The other, we'd have to go to the Super Bowl. He'd have to be a first-team Pro Bowler, and we'd have to win all 3 years for him to see that whole $38 million. If we do that, heck, pay the man $40 million.
Even James Bradberry said that he was holding at the end of the game. Cool. He said it.
He did. And all the other defensive backs, including players on the Kansas City Chiefs, were also like, yeah, they probably shouldn't have called it because they let more egregious calls go throughout the course of the game. So while you like to talk about, he held him, he did. He held people throughout the whole game. So did every defensive back on the field. That was the one time the referees with their with their crimson and gold stripes on decided to make a call because it helps further their guy, the new face that they want in Mr. Mahomes. So he grabbed him, but it was grabbing the whole game.
In an attempt to put this one to bed, you and I both know as fans who have watched this game for quite some time in our life, our entire life, or covered it for quite some time, you and I both know when it comes to the case of capping, when it comes to the case of that, you have to think about the factor of in the last 2 minutes of the game. They're going to call anything. See, when it doesn't matter what happened in the entirety of 3 quarters and the majority of the last one, no matter the last 2 minutes or not, you have to be on your P's and Q's because if not, you're going to be getting called for penalties out here in these streets.
If you're down the Kansas City Chiefs, because they were holding the last 2 minutes. They didn't call that.
Guys, let's know in the comments how you feel about this right here. You agree with Cole McCain or you agree with me? We both disagree on this topic. When it comes to James Bradberry, it's definitely been a fun one so far to start this show out. Before we go any further, we got some breaking news followed by a commercial break that we have right here on the show. And that breaking news is this. Next Sunday evening, 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time, the one and only Joseph Raymond returns for episode 87 of the In or Out Sports Debate here on the LegacyMaker Sports Network. With that being said, let's go ahead and take this into a commercial break. This episode of the In or Out Sports Debate is brought to you by Peanut Butter and Jealous. When you're feeling a little blue based on what others are doing around you, spread a little peanut butter and jealous on your sandwich to make yourself feel whole again. That's right, you guys. When you're feeling a little blue, go ahead and grab yourself a little bit of peanut butter and jealous. Share it with a friend in the top right corner. Share it with yourself in the bottom right-hand corner. If you need it, have a little bit of peanut butter and jealous to make yourself feel whole again. Ladies and gentlemen, that right there is the Sports Sensates Unleashed. The first 13 episodes are available on Snowman Multimedia, which you can find usually on Sundays at 5:05 p.m. Eastern Time. That's right, the In-Or-Out Sports Debate. Welcome back to episode 86. I am Drew Willingham alongside Cool McCain this evening for episode 86. Going through 2 rounds so far. Let's go ahead and take this into the next one and see what round 3 is all about.
Round 3.
And here with round 3, the LA Lakers will qualify for the NBA playoffs. And yes, I did chuckle mid-sentence right there. Cool. How do you feel about this topic in hand, my man? Do you agree with this one? Are you in or are you out on this one?
I am out. When you bring LeBron James back onto this team, that affects the play that you get from Anthony Davis. We've seen it all season. We've seen it every year, but when they were in the bubble. LeBron James and Anthony Davis, something's not right there. They brought in other players. They're better than they were before the trade deadline, no doubt about that. D'Angelo Russell was a welcome piece that they needed. Jared Vanderbilt, we could go on. But at the end of the day, LeBron is going to want to come back and be the king and be the alpha. He can say he wants to pass it off to Anthony Davis, but we've seen him play with Anthony Davis this year. We've seen him play without Anthony Davis.
Yes.
That mix is not going to work there. Someone's going to have to go in order for this to be successful. If one or the other goes, I think, and actually, honestly, I think LeBron should be the one to go. I think you should build around Anthony Davis, not against the talent of LeBron, but something about that does not unlock the full potential of Anthony Davis. So the Lakers this season, while they are in the hunt and while they may make the play-in, they won't actually make the playoffs.
I have to definitely agree with how you feel about this one, Cool. I'm definitely out on this as well. Looking at how this team has played this season, especially when it comes to certain tapping moves within that organization, and you think about all that has transpired with LeBron James getting hurt, they've got a record right now, 34-37. Going into tonight's game, they have a tip-off at 9 o'clock. Currently sitting at 11th in the Western Conference. Now, they do mathematically have a shot as of right now. Mathematically, yes, they are not out of it. But after tonight, you only have 10 games. You have 11 games, including tonight. And you think about their upcoming contestants. Now, tonight at 9:30, they're playing the Magic. Now, of course, the Magic have had their ups and downs over the past few seasons. I can't really say the past few seasons. This is going on for quite some time, pretty much since Shaq left. They haven't had that many, but a handful of good runs maybe within that situation since Shaq has left. 29-42 on paper. The Lakers should win this game, but it's the LA Lakers that we're talking about. Sorry, Rod. Maybe not. They might win, they might not. It's kind of one of those. It's Sunday night. It's 9:30. Who knows? Who really knows what's going to happen with this LA Lakers team? Now, again, they are in 11th, 34-37. They need to get up to the 8th spot in order to make this playoffs. 35-36 since the Thunder right now, which they need to jump up those 3 spots. So, yes, it is doable for the Lakers to go on a run and get in. But cool, even if they do get in, they're going to be so gassed by the time that they get there that they're not going to be able to really make any noise. They're going to get swept in the first round. LeBron's aging. You got Anthony Davis. And you brought up a great point with what you were saying. You might as well let LeBron walk. He's 38 years old. He's going to be 39 later this year. In the same year, he's going to be 39 going into next season. Okay, so he's 38 now. You've got Anthony Davis, who still has some youth in him. He's 30. He might not have as much youth as what LeBron had at age 30 because he's playing a completely different position. He's getting beat up a little bit more, and his body isn't going to be able to withstand a league as long as LeBron's has. Let's just be 100% real, especially when you look at what Anthony Davis has been through in his tenure of his career. He's already had injury situations, even including this year, that's affected him in the game. So LeBron at 38. Snowman, you give a lot of hate towards the man, and I agree with some of the hate that you give towards him, especially when you got people like Rod Isaac out here talking about how LeBron James is the best player of all time. No, he's not. We can debate that all day long. Everybody has their own individuals. Of course, mine's Michael Jordan. Cole's might be the same or someone else's, and we can debate that back and forth, but that's not what this topic is. Will the LA Lakers qualify for the NBA playoffs? I do not believe they will right now, being 3 games under 500 with 11 games to go. You have a lot that you need to entail with this team to get things wrapped up to where you can even get to that echelon of it and even finish with a 41-41 record potentially, if you can do that. And if you do that, you have to win 7 of the next 11 games in order to do that. Okay. I don't think you're going to be able to do that out here on these courts. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I don't feel like you're going to make the playoffs.
And Drew, just to give people a little context, right? After the game tonight against Orlando, the Lakers have the Suns, the Thunder, the next 2 games against the Bulls, 1 home, 1 away. Then the Timberwolves, the Rockets, the Jazz, the Clippers. Then they finish the season with the Suns and the Jazz again. So we're looking at what? The Rockets looks like a game that's winnable. Anthony Edwards, I know he was injured, but I haven't had a chance to check and see how injured he was. But you got the Clippers, a couple of games against the Jazz, a couple of games against the Suns. These are all the teams of Thunder that are also jockeying for a position, attempting to either make the playoffs or in that play-in situation. So the Lakers would have to, as you said, play really good basketball down the stretch. And it just looked like at best a 500 team to me this last 10 games after tonight, whether they win or lose tonight. So, I'm just not sold.
They definitely need to make some more moves during this offseason and not pick up Dennis Schroeder or someone like him and try to say that was like a mega steal of the offseason like last year. I know you know what I'm talking about when they picked up Dennis Schroeder and they're like, yeah, this is going to make so much of a difference, kind of like when we won the championship back in the bubble. Dennis Schroeder was not the main course of what happened within that. So don't even try to sell him as he was this mega all-star that you picked up during the offseason. It drove me nuts hearing that on TV.
Well, you know how that goes, man. Someone's got to be that great pickup for the Lakers, man. The world just doesn't turn if that doesn't happen.
You're absolutely correct on that. And guys, we've gone through 3 rounds so far on this show. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and acknowledge the comments from the fans and the medial mayhem or for our mayhem culmination as we have here for our midway point of the show and see what you guys got to say about these topics that we have so far. And here with our comments from the fans, cool. So far, Melvin Turismo shows up and says, yo, what's up, Melvin? Thank you for showing up on our show. Says 86, let's go. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. What's up, fellas? Says my man Ike doesn't give a fuck. I love his name as long as he has been on this show as a commenter. Ike, send me your personal information. Email it to SIRTOBAmedia@gmail.com. I will respond to you. We've got to get you on this show. Someone with a legendary name known as Ike doesn't give a fuck. I need you on this show. Let me know. SIRTOBAmedia@gmail.com. Then he says, Cool McCain. Cool McCain, he says, what a dope-ass name with the rockin' emoji. He says, using the peach emoji to say ass. Joseph shows up here on Facebook and says, welcome to the Vault of Fame, my dude. Drew wishes he was cool enough to be in the vault. Hey, someone's got to be a spokesperson for the vault. Someone's got to be the man, myth, and the legend who creates the vault. So, hey, I don't mind standing outside to invite others in. There's snacks and everything inside. You guys enjoy it. It's a great party up in the vault. Let me know how it is. All right. Joseph, I left Facebook Live and moved to YouTube just to see what Ike was saying. Absolutely, because Ike does say some wild stuff out here on YouTube sometimes. Hi, Drew Willingham. Hi, Cool. How are you both? Well,
what's going on, Mickey?
Cool. Definitely saying what's up. I say what's up, Mickey. Mickey's been showing up. He's been following me ever since Sports Says Unleashed. He's been watching Snowman stuff. So Mickey's been a great fan. Thank you for tuning in weekly there, sir. I appreciate you for being here, Mick. Ike says, Joseph, hype about Joey being up in there in the comments. Joey says, based on what has happened in the tournament so far, I'm in as well. Talking about UNC and what we were talking about with round one there. Ike says, welcome. Talking to Joseph, it looks like. Welcoming Joseph here for episode 86 in the comments. What's up, Ike, says Joseph. I love giving the play-by-play on this stuff right here. Hi, Joseph. Raymond, how are you, says Mickey. Well, we're going to another level with Mickey now. Chillin', bruh, says Ike doesn't give a fuck. And because we're at this point in the comments, when he says, chillin', bruh, you know that he will be back.
I'll be back.
Even though sometimes when you are back, Ike, it's kind of like this. Rest in peace to Sam Kinison, one of my most favorite comedians of all time. Guys, we got absolutely. Glad you made it, says Ike. Again, Ike is lighting up here in the comments. Joseph says, frankly, in my opinion, I'm glad we're seeing all these teams be successful instead of typical blue bloods. How do you feel about that one, Cool?
Agreed. I mean, I'm a blue blood fan, but agree, man. It's exciting to see some other teams, get a shot and not have to share the spotlight. Bye-bye Duke and Kansas, by the way. Love to see you guys sitting on as well. Makes me feel pleasure.
It's got a little bit of a payback for the soreness that it was to watch UNC not make it this year. But, hey, have to give a shout out to Cool. Cool was one of the ones on Facebook and one of the realest UNC fans out of all the people that I'm friends with on the interwebs by even calling out pretty much what this topic was. This topic was generated based off of a post that he put out there about UNC not deserving to make it to the dance. So if you got a UNC Tar Heels fan saying those exact words, definitely deserves to be credited as one who's not going to be a Homer fan, definitely calls it down the middle. I can definitely appreciate that.
You have to, man. You have to.
Absolutely. Does Cool have the Eagles as a Super Bowl team next year? You know what? Is that an in or out? Let us know right here. We'll pull it up for that one.
I'll go so far as to say indubitably.
Hey, it depends on who else you can bring back. Bringing back Jason Kelsey. I know you were talking about Slay earlier, but there was one person we didn't mention earlier as well. Bringing back Jason Kelsey is huge for that offensive line. Someone who leads that by example. And, no matter what team it is and all teams in history, I don't remember a center, someone who plays the center position being as agile and as pretty much a free roamer within the center position. I've seen him cut freaking 10 yards downfield, to his blind side, just to block somebody from whacking Jalen Hurts when he's been on the run. For a rush, not like a QB rush. Like, that's big time when you've got a center that can move like that. They're not known to do that.
Love it, man. I also love Cox and Brandon Graham coming back. And I'm excited that Cam Jurgens gets another year to sit and learn at the feet of Jason Kelsey. So, yeah, it's definitely a great move.
It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out with them. If they can restructure these contracts in a great way to where they can keep a team being like themselves within the Super Bowl hunt for the next few years to come, because we almost saw a NFC East with all four teams making the playoffs this season. That would have been wild for all three wildcard spots going to the NFC East along with a division winner. That speaks volumes for how strong the division has become. Like, it became pretty bad close to the pandemic where we were calling them the NFC least again. but they're kind of look like the clock's been turned back 10 years, because about 10 years ago was when the division was pretty much at its peak, to where we saw all 4 teams in a similar light. But back then was only 2 wild card teams, and today we have 3. So it's a big difference in how the game goes now. An extra week in the season, an extra team can be in the wild card. So it's big things going for the NFC East, I have a feeling, in the near future. So Joseph says, Drew, your microphone called and said it needs a tic-tac. Well, F you, Joseph. I definitely disagree with you, and for that I have to pull up my man, the Bishop. The hell no.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no, no.
Absolutely. Hell no to the no. We pull up Mickey Delaney with the Hi Drew Willingham and hi cool. How are you again? He says, King James is a big blank crybaby. Mickey says, leave my dude alone, says Ike doesn't give a fuck. And the last but not least, that's not cool. Guys, thanks for the comments so far for the midway point of the show. We're going to go ahead and take this into the next segment, which is the round 4 segment, and see what we got in store for the By the Numbers for this show.
Round 4.
And here with round 4, HINES WARD is the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 86 in all of sports history. Based on all the teams that you've ever known, how do you feel about this one, Cool? Are you in or are you out on this one?
I'm in. I like HINES WARD. I'm in. The thing about it is, HINES WARD was a dog on the field. HINES WARD was the guy that, a lot of people didn't believe in. He wasn't drafted very high, right? But he just did everything that needed to be done. A great representative in the community, great representative for the team, a one-team guy. He plotted, he blocked, he ran, he did whatever was needed for his team. And he used every ounce of athletic ability that he had, and maybe a little bit that he didn't even have, right? But at the end of the day, HINES WARD is just HINES WARD, and you got to love that guy, whether you like the Steelers, whether you hate the Steelers, whether they're the other stinking team across the state or whatever. HINES WARD's that guy.
When you look at how things have gone in history and you put things all together, I think about what Cool said, and part of me wants to agree, but part of me also wants to disagree for the sake of debate. I am out! Now, there may have been a little bit of tapping going on when it comes to HINES WARD out here, when it comes to how he was tip-tapping his toes into the end zone for one of the Super Bowls that he had. I believe that was the one where they beat the Seahawks, for where the bust finally got to go to Disney World and get that illustrious ride as a Super Bowl champion. When you look at the best athletes to ever wear the number 86 of all time, HINES WARD is definitely up there. He definitely is. But I definitely think of some other ones before HINES WARD. And it's tough to say this. People are going to say, Drew, who are the names of these people that you are bringing up out here in these streets? First of all, I got to bring up Stanley Morgan. Is somebody that I think of. A first-round pick overall, 25th overall by the New England Patriots, a 4-time Pro Bowler, had 557 receptions for 10,000 receiving yards, nearly 11,000 for 72 touchdowns on the receiving side. Boyd Dowler, think about that name. That is like a pro golfer name, but he played in the NFL from 1959 and 1971. When I hear that name, Boyd Dowler, HINES WARD, both great names, but Boyd Dowler, for the name itself, have to edge it up a little bit on HINES WARD for the sake of debate. Gary Collins. Who doesn't like somebody with the last name Collins there, Cool McCain? Collins is a pretty solid last name. When you think about this guy based on merit of last name, he was a wide receiver and a punter from 1962 to 1971. He was a round 1 pick, number 4 overall. Who do you know, Cool McCain? Who do you know that was so great? Had to be a number 4 overall pick who was a wide receiver and a punter in 1962 and 1971, consistently throughout that 10-year span. A wide receiver and a punter, a 2-time Pro Bowler as both the wide receiver and a punter in the same season, and 1-time All-Pro. he was also an NFL champion before it was known as the Super Bowl in 1964 for one of the last times the Cleveland Browns, actually the last time that they won an NFL championship. NFL championship game MVP as a wide receiver and a punter in 1964 as well. Finished his career in that 10-year span with 5,300 reception yards and 70 reception touchdowns, which was unheard of in that time frame in the 60s and 70s there, Cool McCain. But you know what? We have not even begun. Well, actually, we have begun, but we haven't even gotten to the final person that I feel like is the best to ever wear the number 86 in all time. He was a defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, one who played from 1963 to 1975, and defensive tackle was a very grueling position for him to play that for 13 years and to get an All-Pro, a second-team All-Pro in 1971, a two-time Pro Bowler in 1970-1971. He was part of the NFL's 100th anniversary all-time team, a two-time AFL champion, a six-time AFL All-Star between 1964 and 1969 years consecutive, a six-time first-team All-AFL from 64 to 69, an AFL all-time team. And did I not only mention this, that he was a one-time Super Bowl champion as that Kansas City Chiefs team that was first team of that franchise that won a Super Bowl. I have to give it to my man, Buck Buchanan. There's defensive tackle to wear number 86. How many defensive tackles do you know that wore number 86? A historic number for a historic man who did historic things on the defensive tackle side.
All right. So which one of those guys is more athletic than Hines Ward? That's the question. The greatest athlete, not the greatest player. So the answer to that question is it's Hines Ward. The other guys, that's great. They did do wonderful things. I did actually go back and look for some of those guys as well, because I had this feeling that we're going to be talking about guys from the 60s and the 50s, and a guy that played punter. And let's put this into the proper context. We are here, greatest athlete, talking about a guy that was a punter. Okay,
a wide receiver and a punter, cool game.
One of the two positions that you have to have very little athletic ability. You have to have some, but very little athletic ability to play. He was a wide receiver as well, but his second position, what you're using to place him in his argument, is that he was also a punter. Not a long snapper, not a fullback, right? Not somebody that played defense as linebacker, safety as well, but a punter.
Hey, man, positioning of the football makes a difference in how long a game can go.
That's what we're doing, Drew. Again, none of those guys were better athletes. And let's also not forget that Hines Ward was a third-round pick and still was more athletic than all those guys.
I don't know. Stanley Morgan. Look at old Stanley with the 14 years that he put within this league. He was tapping around, tapping here and tapping there. But you know what? Eventually, he got it under control when it comes to Stanley Morgan. Think about that name. It's kind of somebody like you want to represent you when you have a bad traffic violation. A man with that last name and that whole name you want to hire, you will pay him just for the name to represent you in court. Guys, we're going through another great round here on this show. 4 rounds are in the books. Before we take it to the final round, let's go ahead and see another commercial break with another hidden Easter egg that we have here for you.
LegacyMaker, the All Sports Network, presents a SIRTOBA media production where the struggle is real to be awesome.
What? I'm better than you, and you know it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that right there is the Kayfabe Express, which the first 4 episodes are now available on the LegacyMaker Sports Network. Let's go ahead and take this into a commercial break and see what we've got in store for you guys going forward. This episode of the In or Out Sports Debate is brought to you by Peanut Butter and Jealous. When you're feeling a little blue based on what others are doing around you, spread a little peanut butter and jealous on your sandwich to make yourself feel whole again. That's right, you guys. One last call. Last call is usually for alcohol, but for this one, it's last call for peanut butter and jealous. You can share it with a friend in the top right corner. You can eat it by yourself in the bottom right-hand corner. You cannot tell anybody whatsoever whether you had it or not. Again, peanut butter and jealous. Share it with a friend. Have it with yourself. Go ahead and indulge to make yourself feel whole again. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for episode 86. We've gone through the first 4 rounds. Commercial breaks are over. Let's go ahead and wrap this unit on up with the final round.
Final round.
And here with the final round, let's take this into some XFL action. The DC Defenders' dual quarterback rotation is the sole reason that they are undefeated at 5-0. Cool, how do you feel about this with everything tapping as well? Are you in or are you out on this one?
I am definitely going to be out on this one, sir. I am. I'm going to be completely out on this one. So while the play has been good, for the passing game, there's a couple of things you really want to look at as to why the DC Defenders are the last undefeated team. Through 5 games, 870 yards rushing. How many yards have they given up? 367 yards. They've averaged 4.63 yards per rush. They've only given up 3.82 yards, and they've only given up 73.4 yards per game. You want to know how many yards they're rushing for? 174. So the fact that they're able to shut down the defenses and have a great game themselves running is one of the big pieces. Now, another big thing we're talking about interceptions, of course, right? Another defensive stat. 6 interceptions through 5 games. 14.7 yards, 14.17 yards average per interception. They have a total of 254 tackles. And also, we look at sacks. They have 16 sacks, 76 yards for loss, right? Their opponents, 5 sacks, 12 yards for loss. So the defense has been a big difference. The rushing game has been a big difference. And I would say the offensive line as well, right? But again, to me, that's an extension of the rushing game because those are your big hogs up front. So I think those are the reasons, that they're off to the start more so than the QB rotation.
And again, when it comes to something like this and without the things that we've discussed with football in the NFL and now with this, I have to agree with Cool when it comes to this. I am definitely out on this as well. Cool broke it down by the numbers, but another thing that I can break it down by besides the rushing attack is their defense. I mean, their defense has been pretty hard-nosed, led by the coach who is known for Bountygate over at the New Orleans Saints, and that being Greg Williams, okay? Now, does that mean we're having bounties going on the XFL? I don't think so. I highly doubt it. For a PR perspective, I'm saying that. Plus, I don't want to get sued. I do not want to end up like Pat McAfee out here in these streets. I don't want to say the BF word because I don't want to have a subpoena showing up to my house at an unknown location as I'm here on location. Back to the topic. When talking about the DC Defenders, dual quarterback rotation being the sole mother-fathering reason that they are undefeated at 5-0. No, they are not 5-0 based on that fact. Because, like Cool stated with his stats, I'm going to call Cool my statistician of this show, of this exact episode, as he shows up ready to rock and roll, talking about the rushing attack. Now, when you look at the passing attack for this team has done great with Jordan Ta'amu basically leading this way as he's got 56 completions on 99 attempts for 642 yards, but barely over a 50% completion percentage. If it wasn't for Derek King, who's only played in spots, but who's also been primarily used as a rushing quarterback player, between the two of them, they've got a good amount of rushing yards between the two. Not as many as passing yards, but they are dual threats based on their rushing. But when we've got players on the defensive side accumulating interception after interception after interception, Michael Joseph has got 2 touchdowns off of interceptions. When you think about that, and when you think about the amount of play that they've had from that, they've got 6 interceptions and they've only played 5 games. Cool. 6 interceptions. You want to bring stats. I feel like the defense has been just as impactful for this team as their rushing attack, especially based on how they decimated the St. Louis Battlehawks last night. They beat the Battlehawks twice now on this year. And A.J. McCarron is no slouch. Former NFL quarterback, a former national champion quarterback playing in the college. You know, he was definitely a big-time quarterback in his heyday in the NCAA times. It was a pretty decent backup in his time in the NFL as well. But he wanted to take this time to play and show his kids, you know, some actual footage on film of him playing, because as a backup, of course, you don't really get much time except for some garbage time to play in the NFL. And then you've got the XFL opportunity, and you go play a DC Defenders team. It wasn't the rushing attack that beat them in those 2 games. It was the defense, the hard-nosed defense that was smacking A.J. McCarron in the mouth, as what they like to say on Pat McAfee's show, in the mouth. They smacked him in the mouth, and they did, and that's why they lost those 2 games.
Well, like I said, man, the rushing game, but also the defense. So I completely agree with what you're saying there, sir. You know, couldn't have said it better myself.
Absolutely, man. Had to bring the fireworks as we both agreed on that topic. Guys, we've gone through all 5 rounds. Before we go to the final word, let's go ahead and acknowledge the few comments we got left. If you got anything else to say out there, fans, go ahead and get it on in as we acknowledge the mayhem culmination. The mayhem culmination, our man Ike is back, where he says HINES WARD all day. And when it comes to that, I know my man Cool is saying this inside his heart right now. Even though I like HINES WARD, and you apparently like that Daniel Bryan reference right there, I've got to bring it back to WWE and bring some Chris Jericho up here and say
Would you please shut the hell up?
Because The Rock is working his way in as he says this right now, Cool.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
And I know some of our fans right now live, or whether they're watching in syndication, are probably looking at this and saying, Drew, wow! Damn! But when it comes to this situation, and my man, Buck Buchanan, you just can't. You
can't handle the truth.
And when it comes to lag on these interwebs, nobody has this.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But most of the time, you might get lucky, and most people might feel like this about primetime.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
Shout out to primetime, Deion Sanders right there. Guys, keep the comments coming. Thank you very much. Stanley Morgan, yes, of course. I had to throw some random names out there. Sometimes, just sometimes, when it comes to having a sports debate show, whether you agree or disagree with whatever you're saying sometimes, you have to debate it because for the sake of debate and for the sake of entertainment, I'm here, blood, sweat, and tears for the fans. And I had to. So when it comes to Stanley Morgan, I will do it without this.
But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice? We talking about practice, man. We talking about practice. We talking about practice. We ain't talking about the game. We talking about practice, man. When you come in the arena and you see me play, don't you?
Absolutely.
You see me give everything I got, right?
Absolutely.
But we talking about practice right now.
Absolutely show up without practice because it is time to be legendary. If not, somebody's going to hire this guy to have these words with us.
Yeah! Fire!
And somebody in the executive suite, cool, they're going to say this about it.
That's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Off the rails time!
What?
I said it's off the rails time!
What?
I'm going to make you say it so many times.
What?
It doesn't matter, Stone Cold.
What?
You're pissing off Sammy right now.
What?
I said you're pissing off Sammy right now.
What?
Say what again? Say what again?
He's getting upset, Stone Cold. I told you.
What?
Come on now, Stanley Morgan. Of course, Ike. Of course I took it there. That is why we went off the rails for the past 2 minutes with clips, because of Stanley, Mother, Father, and Morgan. How do you feel, cool?
I feel like we could have substituted Stanley Morgan for practice, and that would have been great.
Hey, my man brings up a great point with that, but hey, sometimes you got to throw a fire out there with a random lawyer name with Stanley Morgan to keep things going out here in these streets. Last comment we have, Paul Schofield, my man. Before I read his topic, I have to give a shout out to Paul. If it was not for Paul, this brand that I have on my chest, the LegacyMaker Sports Network, or my polo and what I do today would not be happening. Cool McCain would not be here for episode 86. I would not have even carved my own path or forged my own path from writing a few articles for this network 4.5 years ago to what we're doing today, where I'm producing a show and participating in it with you as we go, and people are mesmerized by how I do it. It's all because of this guy right here, Paul Schofield. Shout out to my man Paul for watching. As he says in this final comment that we have on this show, I need to get on top of the XFL, man. I've been all over college basketball right now. Cool. When you weigh in the two sports, which one have you focused more on? If you focus more on March Madness, XFL, a little bit of both, let's break it down for the fans before we get on out of here.
Definitely a little bit of both, man. I mean, I can't not get into March Madness. You know how some people say oh, my team's not in it or whatever. I can't not focus on March Madness. I've been watching March Madness since I was probably 4 or 5 years old, so that's something I have to do every year. But I also love the XFL, right? I love the XFL in the original incarnation. I love when it came back. I was excited when The Rock bought it. So definitely I'm watching it as well. I'm just balancing, right? The good thing is, we got the previous channel button. So, right, you watch a little bit of this previous channel when there's a break, when there's halftime, when the game's kind of out of reach. So I've just kind of thrown XFL this weekend into the rotation with the March Madness shows. I've been watching women's March Madness as well. And if you haven't been tuning in, it's been some really good games. Iowa had a really tight game against Georgia today. They did pull out a win, but that was a good game. And South Carolina's just abusing everybody as they should. So,
And part of that tournament has actually been here on our other side of Virginia. We cover stuff here on the Capital side towards Richmond.
Nice.
Is where we're at right now. But we have a guy, Joey Raymond, who's been on my show quite a bit, 15-time Vault of Fame inductee, which we'll show here in a second. But he's covering the women's tournament right now on that part that's being hosted at Virginia Tech's basketball arena. So all that pool of the NCAA women's tournament, the first and second rounds are going on right there at that school. So he's been providing that coverage for us, and it looks like some pretty great basketball from what we've seen on that end.
Yeah, and Tech's the #1 seed too. But I have 2 questions for you, Drew, because I know you're a wrestling guy as well.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first one is, who dethrones MJF?
My man has done some fact digging because I love AEW. Yes, I watch both WWE and AEW, even MLW, because I had Roman Reigns' cousin on Kayfabe Express.
Yes.
He was on there
as well.
Yeah, because MLW has done some great things, and Lance is definitely a tag team champion. Not to get off subject, but when it comes to MJF, that last man standing match, I did watch that pay-per-view match last week between him and Daniel Bryan. And last week, when you have the 4 pillar segment, when you have Jungle Boy and you have Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin and MJF standing all in the ring, and that one part where MJF takes off his glasses and he's got the raccoon eyes from getting the blank beat out of him in that pay-per-view match, it's going to be tough because whether all this stuff is hype about him potentially going to WWE, which I don't feel like would be a good move because it would be a major blow to AEW, because that's a big part of their ratings right there and their draw, because you just don't know what that kid's going to say next. He's not going to be able to get away with half the stuff he gets away with in WWE. I don't see Jungle Boy or Sammy Guevara or Darby Allin taking the belt off of him. They're just not. A story that they built up before he took his hiatus with Wardlow.
You're going the same direction as me. I like it. I like it.
He was taking so much abuse from MJF, and everything that was going on between the Pinnacle and leading up to before Wardlow lost the ponytail, before it was chopped off by Samoa Joe, and before all that, Wardlow has all that angst going on. He lost his hair that was sentimental to him. Kind of like me. I'm growing my hair out so I can donate it because I had a friend of mine pass away from cancer in 2020. Okay. So I can understand the Wardlow story. And now you are so mad because of what's going on there. And you were already treated like scum when you were working with MJF. I feel like the strongest babyface, because Wardlow is a babyface going against a heel of MJF. You've got a homegrown babyface against a homegrown heel. Ever since Cody Rhodes left, there hasn't been that much big of a splash of homegrown talent. It's got to be Wardlow that takes that title off of MJF.
You're giving me goosebumps, man. You're giving me goosebumps. I love it.
I got so hyped. What was your second question? I'm sorry.
So the second question is actually a 2-parter.
Okay.
So if Cody Rhodes wins the championships at WrestleMania, the first part of the question is, do you think he surrenders the SmackDown championship so that they can have their own championship, keeps the heavyweight championship, and brings back some version of the Winged Eagle? And the second part is, what if he wins, and what if Sammy and KO win? Do they form their own group called My Kingdom?
I like where you're going with that, Cool McCain. And you know what? I actually bought WWE 2K23 this week. As a gift to myself, because I've been grinding hard out here in these streets this year. I got the John Cena Ruthless Aggression pack, and I was playing around with that unit, especially last night. I was having fun on a Saturday night, about like between the hours of 11 p.m. and 2 in the morning. I stayed up kind of late, and then I called a game today, which we'll get to that later. But called a baseball game this afternoon for NCAA. But anyway, played 2K23 to 2 o'clock in the morning, and one of the matchups that I had was where I took the WWE 2K, or not 2K, the WWE Championship off of Roman Reigns. There's still time left. We still have 2 weeks until that main event because it's going to be on Sunday. They're going to drag it out as long as they possibly can to that Sunday main event is what's going to happen. There's going to be, of course, they have a 2-night event. There's going to be a main event the night before, which will probably be one of the women's championships main eventing. That one probably
it's got to be Charlotte. It's got to be Charlotte and Rhea.
Charlotte and Rhea.
Be Charlotte.
Yeah,
and Rhea.
Charlotte and Rhea because of the stakes of what they had with the NXT championship years ago and the story, everything building up in their background. With Cody's situation, there's still 2 weeks left. And you hear in the promos over the past couple weeks about how much respect he has for Roman Reigns and his title run. Which title has he had the longest between the two? The Universal Championship. So who's to say within the next 2 weeks, Cody says, because he has the option in years prior, the Royal Rumble winner has the option of only challenging for one of the two championships. Who's to say that within the next 2 weeks they don't dial this down enough to where Cody Rhodes even finagles that into a handshake deal, even potentially tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw, where the Tribal Chief is supposed to show up on Monday Night Raw. Who's to say in that moment, or potentially a week later? Because again, we still have 2 weeks from today, so they still have 4 televised shows between now and WrestleMania. Who's to say that within one of those last 2 Raws or within one of those last 2 SmackDowns, they don't say Cody has so much respect for the Tribal Chief, he's only going to challenge for the one championship that he truly wants, and that's the WWE Championship, which is the Raw Championship. So that way they have a Raw champion and a SmackDown champion. And of course, Roman Reigns will be like, oh, of course, you're not going to beat me. I'm still going to be the Tribal Chief, and I'm going to rule both shows. Cody knows that he has a better chance of taking the man down for one championship, let alone 2. And I just envision this. And I could be wrong. This is the fan in me envisioning this. That way we still see what the Bloodline story can do and how the fractures within the Bloodline story can pan out between now and the latter part of this year, because I feel like they're going to use that story to propel Solo Sikoa up to a different level at some point. They're not done with the Bloodline story yet. Roman Reigns isn't quite done yet. And I feel like the separation of the 2 titles, and they do it within this way, could be better to where it doesn't hurt either one of those 2 wrestlers going forward. And they both are still on a big stage rather than somebody taking a hit from somebody else winning.
I thought from the beginning that they would go the route of he can only challenge for 1 belt. I hated when he said he was challenging for both. It kind of made me cringe, because it's like he has so much less of a chance of winning if it's only 1 belt, if it's both belts. But if it's 1 belt, I'd give him a 80% chance to beat him for just the Raw Championship. So I know they're doing the 2 4-ways for the tag championships, right? But there's a kicker. The Usos have 2 sets of championships. And if you've been paying attention, the last few times that they've defended on Raw, it's only been 1 set of championships that they're defending. So who's to say sometime between now and WrestleMania, like maybe the main event next week on Raw, we don't get Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos and they lose the Raw championships. And then something like what you said happens, or Cody wins the belts and then vacates the SmackDown Championship, the Universal Championship. I'd rather him just compete for one and win it. And then you start to get what we all need, which is a separation. Roman Reigns comes to Raw, 4 times a year? He's not their champion. They need to split the belt. They need a guy that's going to be on that show, because USA is not going to re-up for all the money they're paying and not have an actual champion on that show. And that was the purpose of the brand split to begin with. So I think we need to get the Raw Tag Team Championships back on Raw. Owens and Sami Zayn are the perfect guys to do that. I think we need to get the WWE Championship, the only one Cody cares about, the one he said the night after he returned he wanted, split. We don't need a Universal Championship. We don't need this undisputed Universal Championship crap. We just need a Universal Championship and a WWE Championship. Like you said, Reigns can keep the Universal Championship if they find a way to finagle that loophole between now and WrestleMania. I've been hoping that they find it as well, because Cody has to be the WWE champion. I don't care about him being the undisputed Universal champion.
Absolutely. And one thing that can take us to where they kind of meet us in the middle is if Cody wins the undisputed Universal Championship and you still have Owens and Zayn challenging for the undisputed tag team championship, and you still have Owens and Zayn win and Cody win, and they completely take down the Bloodline to culminate at WrestleMania.
And then they form a group called My Kingdom.
Yes, and they form it, but I feel like you would be better off splitting the World Heavyweight Championship and the Universal and splitting the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships and crush the story of the Bloodline at WrestleMania 40 with The Rock.
Yeah, that would be interesting because he didn't want to do it this year.
Yeah.
I really just want the separation again. So I want the Usos to lose the Raw Championships. I want Reigns to use the WWE Championship.
That way they can be on SmackDown and you got the other stuff on Raw. Yep.
Yeah. I want to have the two things. You got the Bloodline hot on Raw. I mean, on SmackDown. Then you got Cody, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn, whether they're together or not, hot on Raw as your champs coming out of WrestleMania.
Absolutely. And we do have one final comment to sneak in here before we go to the final word, and that is Madcap Moss is the next IC champ. Says Ike doesn't give a fuck. Let's go ahead and do an in or out on that one. How do you feel about that one, Cool? Are you in or are you out on this one?
Definitely have to be out on that one.
All right, let doesn't give a fuck know why.
So it's very simple. Gunther's losing that belt at WrestleMania. He's losing it.
You think so in that triple threat?
I think he's losing to the triple threat. I'm not sure which guy's going to win yet. If I was betting, I would go Drew McIntyre turning heel on Sheamus and winning by pinning Sheamus. I think what's going to happen is Gunther's going to lose the belt, but he's not going to get pinned. He's going to go into this whole rampage about how it should have been one-on-one matches or what he was anticipating, and then blah, 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 blah. Because remember, he shot himself in the foot and made this a triple threat. So I think he's going to lose without getting pinned. If I was a betting man right now, I'd say the other two guys are going to be the ones involved in the pin. I'm sure of that. I just can't figure out right now. I'm thinking we're going to finally get a heel turn from Drew McIntyre, and he pinned Sheamus. We could go the other way. Sheamus could pin Drew, but a heel turn for Drew and him winning the IC championship and starting a darker Drew storyline would be so great because I'm sick of the good guy Drew. It's just sickening at this point. He needs to be a bad guy. He's a much better bad guy than he is a good guy. Let's get the best version of Drew McIntyre back.
It'd definitely be interesting to see how they play that out, but I have to agree with Cool on this one. I'm out on this one. I do like what WWE has done by bringing in Emma to be his valet / girlfriend to kind of help elevate him into the next level. And who's to say, because he's definitely young enough and has enough of the tools to where at some point he shows the potential right now to be a potential singles champion. Not today. I feel like maybe in 2024, he's at that point to where Austin Theory was when he first started on the main roster, where he was good, but he wasn't quite in the echelon of talent to deserve a singles run with one of the secondary titles, whether it's the U.S. title or the Intercontinental Championship. So when it comes to that, I have to say Madcap Moss is flirting with the kind of close to it, and he's like reaching for it. He's like within grasp, but he's not quite there yet. So he's out right now, not by a mile. You're kind of close, Ike. You're not like far off, but I have to say that in this moment, he is not the next IC champ.
I would like to see Madcap Moss win tag team gold first. I'd like to see him take the old school route, tag team gold. You have that for a while. You and your partner kind of end up splitting up. And then you kind of get that push, and then you get dumped into that IC or United States Championship picture, depending on, of course, what happens with the draft. And just take that, that old school route, and then get that payoff with essentially down the road, finally becoming a world champ. That would be exciting for me.
Absolutely. And thank you, Ike, for bringing that up and kind of keeping things going a little bit with the wrestling talk that we went into, because I definitely love wrestling. And now that I know that, the next time I get Cool McCain on here, we're going to have a wrestling topic or two now that we've discussed wrestling on this show. So I'm glad we were able to cover that. But before we go into the final word, we have to acknowledge something real quick, and that is Cool's induction into the Vault of Fame.
Acknowledge me.
That's right. You guys saw the In-Or-Out Sports Debate Vaults of Fame to start the show out. Now, Cool McCain is inducted for the first time. He is locked into the vault for episode 86 of this long-running show, the 80th episode within 11 and a half months running concurrent. Thank you guys for continuously watching this show. The Vault of Fame leaderboard right here. Joey Raymond is in first place with 15 appearances, followed by Rob Johnson with 14. Darrell Owens, the man, myth, and legend of the LegacyMaker Sports Network, in third place with 5. James Brown, Corey Mann, and P. Alexander Wally tied for fourth place with 4 appearances. Brian H. Waters, Cody Stewart, Dwayne Allen, Kyle Nash, Michael Bish, Brian the Snowman Snow, and Lamont Thomas in 5th place with 3 appearances. And we also have 7 panelists tied for 6th place with 2 appearances apiece. Up next on the In-Or-Out Sports Debate, again, number 87, episode 87, next Sunday, 8:05 p.m. Eastern. Joey Raymond returns for number 87 for his 16th appearance. You can check this show out on LegacyMaker Sports Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and as always on TikTok. In the latest at LegacyMakerSports.com. You can check out the In-Or-Out Sports Debate on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Twitch, as well as the audio platforms on Apple and Google Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Anchor.fm, and you can download this show individually on iTunes. SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. You can find on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the YouTube channel coming soon, I promise. And the latest at SIRTOBA.com. You can check me out at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as at SIRTOBA.com, and the latest at LegacyMakerSports.com. If you want to throw me a tippy with this little stoic picture on the $10 bill, you can hook me up at Cash App, cash.app/$DWillie87. If you want to throw me a little tippy on Cash App, thank you, if you may, if you must, and I appreciate it. Again, we are here for episode 86 of the In-Or-Out Sports Debate. We only have one more thing left to do before we go into the outro, and that is acknowledge the final word. I don't know how I breathed through all that, man. Like I went straight through it. Thank you. Hey, we are here at the last part of the show there, Cool, where just out of everything we discussed throughout the 5 rounds, even wrestling that we kind of went off the rails a little bit for, or just anything within sports or entertainment in general, this is your time for the floor solo. Go ahead and let us know what's on your mind with the final word there, brother.
Cowboys fans. Don't celebrate because another team made the Super Bowl and lost. You have been garbage for the entirety of this century. Accept that your rewards, the things that you fantasize about, your bronze rings that you like to bring up, they're all from a century gone by. Your team of the past. You're only relevant because your owner's crazy and he makes lots of money from his logo. The product that you put on the field is even inferior when it's supposedly superior. You're already talking about you're going to win the Super Bowl next year. You're already talking about this and that, and you're going to be so much better, and you're this and that. Brandon Cooks does not take you from where you were last year to a Super Bowl. Dakota Prescott is still your quarterback. You just got rid of your second running back. Jerry Jones is still your coach. So, I mean, yeah, pretty much your coach, right? Even though he's not, he pretty much runs everything. So what I'd like for you to just understand is you're still bad. Lakers fans, I just want to let you guys know, if you make the playoffs, that's cool, man. I'd be happy for you, but I just don't think you can do it as currently constructed. And bronsexuals, you know how I feel about you. Just stop it.
That was especially for you there, Rod Isaac. That was definitely especially there for you. I had something in mind for a final word there, Cool, but with where we went during the Mayhem culmination and talking about professional wrestling, I'm going to steer along those lines. Stone Cold Steve Austin, after 19 years, we saw what you were capable of last year and what you mother-fathering did last year against Kevin Owens. And you think about what you did against Kevin Owens last year, and then you ran in on that Vince McMahon match of what you did, and you paid major dividends to what WWE ratings have been missing for quite some time. We have WrestleMania 39. We are 2 weeks away from the exact date and time from the main event we'll be preparing for that show. There are 2 slots available inside edition words. Inside edition facts. There are 2 matches that have been yet to be determined. And you know whose name has not been surfaced so far for a surgically refused neck who looked great in last year's match? That person is you, Stone Cold Steve Austin. You should be in LA this year. And why? Because, of course, you are widely known for living in Texas. And you are widely known for having your Broken Skull Ranch and producing your beer and driving just down the road pretty much to go to WrestleMania last year. Not many people know that you also have a house in Los Angeles, California, and you could do the exact same thing where you drive from your driveway to WrestleMania in less than an hour and show up to the event and participate in WrestleMania 39 for a big payday and a big field day for the fans like myself who've been watching this show for entirely way too long and who are talking about it on a podcast for fun because they want you to be on the show. And hopefully I don't have a heart attack from getting as amped up as I have been on this show on this evening. But when Cole McCain gets me amped up for wrestling, I have to live up to the moment. I have to cut a promo in here without having a mother-fathering heart attack and entertain my fans who are great to me, who are loyal to me, who watch this show. I love you. You love me. That's why you watch this mother-fathering show. And please don't let me die, God. Please don't let me die as I go off on this topic. Talking about Stone motherfathering Cold Steve Austin. And I don't think that's ever been said like that before, but I just did it. Thank you, Coca-Cola, for the caffeine boost to give me this moment in Stone motherfathering Cold Steve Austin. Gosh, guys, Stone Cold, bring him back. Make us happy in our hearts. Have him there for this WrestleMania and next WrestleMania, and then he could retire forever. But I just want to see him in triple-time WrestleManias consecutively for myself as I get old and I don't have much to live for when it comes to watching nostalgic wrestling. And nostalgic wrestling is dying because everybody else is retiring. Stone Cold is still out there whooping ass, drinking beer, and producing beer as he promoted his own new beer last year during his own wrestling match. I can't say anymore without going into cardiac arrest. Cool.
So one thought on that, I actually have an opponent that would be perfect for. L.A. Knight. Yeah.
Ooh.
Perfect
the
match.
Former Eli Drake of the independent scene, L.A. Knight. Someone who needs an attitude adjustment, who deserves to have Broken Skull beer dumped all over him. Yes, I am 100% in agreement with my man, Cool McCain. Guys, this has been one epic show for episode 86. Cool. Thank you again for joining us from the Eagles Elite Podcast. Guys out there who are Eagles fans or fans of the NFC East, hell, fans of football who don't even have a team but just love watching football in general. Check out my man Cool's Eagles Elite Podcast, the Play Callers Network, everybody else within Snowman Multimedia, my colleagues within that as well, LegacyMaker Sports Network. We've already plugged it enough throughout the shows. We've only got one thing left to do, and that is look at one badass outro. For my guy, Cool McCain, on my side, I am Drew Willingham. Everybody stay safe out there in these streets.